Hi everyone, Woody here. Today I want to talk about greater rift fishing, and I want to give you a little bit of a perspective on how much of an effect the RNG factors have on your performance in greater rifts. So this is like when you're pushing for solo or for group ranks, you know that most rifts are not equal. Like there's some really good ones, there's some really bad ones, and I collected like all the most important RNG factors here, and I want to show you guys. So just as the baseline, imagine the following. You have a floor 1, and this is like the worst of the worst, some like red archer, skeleton, monster type on a hell rift. You go to floor 2, and then you have soul lashers in a little salt and cool map. Then you go to floor 3, it's a cave with some molus, and you go to floor 4, and it continues to be really bad. And floor 5, and eventually on floor 6 or so, you spawn a boss, and it's fucking Joker. And the boss fight takes twice as long as usual, and on the way there you get like a speed and a channeling. So what I just described is pretty much the worst case scenario for pretty much any build in the game. You just get like really bad map after a really bad map with only bad monster types, bad Rift Guardian, and so on. And this is kind of like the worst of the worst. So this is like the bottom case scenario. This is not the average rift. The average rift is much better than that, but this is like the baseline now from where we start. So just to give you like the idea of where we are. So with this picture in mind, now look at this table here. And here I have collected all the most important RNG factors, and I've given them all a value of around 1 tier, which is just from my own experience after pushing many dozens of thousands of keys throughout many seasons. I just feel like this is relatively accurate. For some builds, the content might matter more than for others. For some builds, the map might matter more than for others. For some builds, the mob types matter a bit more than for others. But typically, this is kind of like the baseline here. So, you can get a good map that gives you a little bit of an extra. You have a good monster type, you have the good follow-up maps, you have the good pylons, you have the good Rift Guardians, and so on. And also on the border here, we have the Illusion of Nightmares. I'm going to cover those in a second. So the total RNG range is somewhere between 10 to 12 tiers for almost every build, I'd say. Here, if you count them all together, it's 11 minus the extra. And I think this is pretty accurate. So for example, when I push on my multi-shot Demon Hunter right now, I think for myself, the highest potential is going to be around 131. And I've already cleared a 128, and this was when I was around the tier weaker or so, and I didn't really push for the maximum there. But I had most of these factors here. For example, I had one of the top maps, I had a good monster type, I had a good layout, I had a good conduit, and I had a decent Rift Guardian, and so on. So I had most of these factors checked. I actually killed some elites as well, and so on. But I was missing, like a few things that would give me like another 1 or 2 tiers. So for me, the goal is going to be 130, which is going to be close to the maximum here. So we're looking at something like 2,000 keys used or so, maybe 1,000, something like that. And it's just like to give you like a little bit of an idea of where you are, how many keys you have to use to reach a certain goal. So when I take my multi-shot Demon Hunter, and I think I can do a 131 maximum with all those factors, and I think I'm going for 130, then I should be able to clear something like every single tier 120. And I can do that very reliably. In fact, I've actually ran 5 keys in a row recently, just like any random key, and I wanted to see if I can beat all of them. And on 123, I had like pretty average rifts, so I cleared 3 of them in time. I missed 1 by 1 second, and I missed 1 by, I don't know, like 2 minutes or so. And these were like just average rifts, and some of these factors were checked, obviously. So like, for example, I got a conduit here and there, I got a decent mob type here and there, but it was nothing really crazy. I just played 5 keys, and this was kind of like a little challenge for myself to see whether I can do 5 keys in a row on any random map. And well, I couldn't, because I was missing some of the RNG factors here and there. So any random average key will already have some of these RNG factors checked. So you're like a few tiers higher than this worst case scenario I described at the start, simply because the RNG goes both ways. And you're going to be at somewhere like, +3 to 5 tiers almost every time when you open a key. And then there's like, some keys that spread out towards the bad and the good. And then, it just thins out towards the sides. This is like a normal random statistic distribution. And there's nothing different here in Diablo 3. So now it really comes down to you and your goals. So for me, typically when I go for a high tier push, I try to max out my characters or get close to the maximum at least. So I don't always push like 5,000 keys or so. Most of my pushes are somewhere between 500 and 2,000 keys, and I get really close to the maximum potential. But of course, you can always open a better map. So this is where I was at. And obviously, there might also be some people that, just open like 10 keys and they get the absolute dream and get like, 90% of those factors checked and have like a ridiculous time on really high tier. And everyone's thinking like, wow, how did they do that? And the answer is they just got lucky. And the only reliable way to compete with these kind of lucky clears is to put in more keys. So you have to restart the game over and over and over until you get, one of the good maps and one of the good monster types, and then you play through it, you try to get a conduit, you try to go to floor 2, floor 3, stay on time, spawn with guardian, kill it, and so on. So yeah, there's a lot of factors involved and a lot of gameplay involved, and I've already talked about the creator with maps specifically, so you can check that out if you want to see which are the best and how often you get them and so on. So I've covered that, and I'm also gonna cover the monster types at another point. But this is just, to give you like an overview. I guess most of you are aware of, which monster types work relatively well and which don't. But there's probably also some details that you might not be aware about, and I'm gonna cover those in the future video. So the last thing that I mentioned at the start as well are the Illusionist Enslaved Nightmares. This is a very special elite pack that consists of a Terror Demon Yellow with Enslaved Nightmare minions, and this pack has Illusionist. And the reason why this one is so good is because these illusions will spawn fresh monsters for you all the time. And these are very high progression monsters like Murder Lords and some other stuff. And they spawn, they basically give you enough progress to just spawn a Rift Guardian right on the spot. And they spawn monsters faster than the Greater Rift timer requires you to kill them. So they actually spawn like 100% progress in, I don't know, like 7 or 8 minutes or so. So as long as you clean up most of it, you will spawn the boss on the spot. And then you can, still after like 20-30% or so, try to run ahead a little bit, spawn a pylon somewhere. Maybe you get a conduit to clean up a bit, maybe you get a power, and so on. But yeah, this is like a really extremely rare but extremely strong elite pack. And actually some people go for that specifically because it's so good with certain builds, and it gives you like another really big advantage. But yeah, this is just on the side. Typically this is not what you're fishing for, and like the RNG required is in fact actually too high that most likely you're never gonna see it in a season or 2 or 3. So I found it once this season. I haven't found it a single time last season, I think. The last time was like, I don't know, 3 seasons ago or something. And yeah, it's really rare, but it happens. And this is also, kind of like a hidden fishing, and there's also like some kind of like hidden RNG factor that some people might actually go for, the super crazy guys. And this might result in like an insane clear in some cases. For the future, I really hope that we get maybe a little bit lower RNG requirements for the greater pushing. For example, conduits could be nerfed, elites could be changed to actually be more reliable. Maybe the map layout could be buffed and nerfed a little bit, and so on. And yeah, but it is what it is, and RNG will always be involved. So you just try to average out the RNG by having like, a certain kind of like minimum amount of keys that you use. Something like, 500 keys already gets you close to the max anyway. And typically you can work with that. And like the highest RNG possible is never truly achieved, because no one puts in enough keys for that. So this is what it is. Even the rank 1 clears are not going to use 5,000 keys in most cases. They're going to use like maybe 500, maybe 1,000. But they might get lucky in those 1,000 keys or not. But yeah, this is just how it goes. Or maybe we get a greater restart button eventually that has been requested since season 1. And since fishing is such a vital part of the competition in Diablo, I really hope that we can just restart yours faster. And I don't really mind farming the keys, for example. I just hate that I have to go to a menu every single time I want to restart, and it takes like 20 or 30 seconds. If I could just open and close the GR in 1 second, this would already help so much to just reduce the downtime between runs by like 90% or so. So instead of waiting like 5 minutes or 2 minutes or whatever for the next run, I could just like instantly open the next one in like 20 seconds or so every time. And that would be great. Anyway, I hope you liked this video here. I'll see you guys next time.